Victor was dead. And the worst part? They found my dagger in his chest. I barely had time to breathe before the tent flaps ripped open. Cold air rushed in, along with gasps, shouts. Shadows moving too fast for my dazed mind to process. Someone grabbed my arm, yanked me up so hard my legs nearly buckled. Ashton. A voice choked. Valeria. Her eyes, wide and glistening, darted between me and Victor's body sprawled over my sleeping furs. You killed him. No. My head spun. Victor's body lay unnaturally still, dark blood staining his ceremonial robes. My dagger, our tribe's ceremonial blade, was buried deep in his chest. My hands, trembling, were slick with red. My voice cracked. I couldn't finish the sentence because I didn't know what to say. How was he even here? The last thing I remembered was the night before the ceremony. Victor had been pale, unsteady on his feet, but alive. Guards stormed in. Hands seized me, twisted my arms behind my back. Someone barked an order, but the ringing in my ears drowned it out. Ashton killed the alpha. Valeria's scream cut through the chaos. He was standing over him. I saw it. He betrayed us. No, My throat closed. My own voice sounded weak, useless. The words wouldn't come fast enough. Take him to the council, another voice shouted. The world blurred. Too many hands, too many voices. The iron grip of judgment tightening around me before I could even breathe. I caught a glimpse of Darius outside the tent. His expression carved from stone. He didn't move, didn't speak. And just like that, I was dragged away. To them, the case was closed. I was guilty, and in 3 days I was going to die. The village square was packed. Torches burned against the cold morning air, their light flickering across furious faces. The tribe stood shoulder to shoulder. Warriors, elders, even children, all waiting for the council to speak. I was forced to my knees in the dirt, my wrists bound in front of me with thick rope. Blood still clung to my skin, dried and cracking over my fingers. Victor's body lay on a ceremonial platform behind the council, covered in dark furs, his face hidden. My stomach twisted. Less than a day ago, he was supposed to stand beside me, our hands clasped as we confirmed our bond before the tribe. Now he was dead, and they thought I killed him. The head elder, Ryan, stepped forward. His lined face was grim, voice heavy with finality. Ashton, son of Iron, Omega of the Northern Wolf tribe, he declared. You stand accused of the highest betrayal, the murder of your destined mate, our future alpha. Murmurs rippled through the crowd, sharp and biting. Traitor. He wanted power. He killed his own mate. My chest tightened. This wasn't a trial. It was an execution dressed up in ceremony. I didn't do this, I said, my voice hoarse. Please, Victor was sick. I saw it before the ceremony. You have to. Sick. Valeria's voice sliced through the air. She stepped forward, her face streaked with tears. You would dare speak of him like that? My cousin was strong. He was meant to lead us. And you, her voice cracked. You took him from us. That's not true. I shot back. I would never. Enough, Elder Ryan interrupted. The tribe has spoken. I swallowed hard. You will be held until the third sunrise, he continued, his voice unwavering. At dawn, you will pay for your crime with your life. Silence. Then, a deafening roar of approval from the crowd. I turned desperately, searching for a familiar face. For someone, anyone who didn't believe this. My gaze locked onto Darius, standing at the edge of the warriors. His jaw was tight, his fists clenched, but he said nothing. Not even him. The guards yanked me up, dragging me toward the darkened path leading to the holding caves. My sentence was set. 3 days. Then I would die. The cell smelled like damp earth and old blood. They threw me in without ceremony. My knees hit the cold stone, hard enough to bruise, but I barely felt it. The heavy wooden gate slammed shut behind me, the iron lock clicking into place. Outside, the muffled sounds of the tribe still echoed. Angry voices, torches hissing in the wind. the sharp snap of wood as someone shattered something in grief. Victor was dead. And in 3 days I would be too. I pressed my forehead against the rough wall, my breath uneven. My thoughts were a storm, memories of last night flashing in jagged fragments. Victor standing by the fire, looking paler than usual. The way he swayed slightly when he reached for his ceremonial robe. The warmth of his hand when he squeezed mine. Was it shaking? Or had I imagined it? Then, nothing. Just blackness. And then blood. I clenched my fists, the dried flakes on my fingers cracking. If I had killed him, I would remember. Wouldn't I? Footsteps. Heavy ones. I turned just as Darius appeared outside the bars. For a long moment, he didn't speak. The flickering torch in his hand cast sharp shadows over his face, making his eyes darker, unreadable. His arms were tense at his sides, his shoulders squared like he was bracing for a fight. I exhaled shakily. Are you here to gloat? To tell me how much I deserve this? Darius's jaw tightened. I don't think you deserve this. I let out a hollow laugh. That's nice. Too bad the rest of the tribe disagrees. A muscle in his jaw twitched, but he didn't argue. Instead, he crouched down, closer to my eye level. Tell me the truth, he said, voice low. Did you do it? Something about the way he asked made my throat tighten. Because it wasn't the accusation I'd been hearing all day. It wasn't a demand. It was something else. A sliver of doubt. I met his gaze, my voice raw. No. Darius exhaled through his nose, rubbing a hand down his face. Then, without another word, he stood and walked away, disappearing into the darkness. I should have felt relief that at least one person wasn't convinced I was a murderer. But all I felt was empty. Darius couldn't sleep. The night air was sharp, cold enough to bite through his furs. But it wasn't the wind keeping him awake. It was Ashton's voice. The raw, unflinching way he had said no. He had expected hesitation. A lie. A desperate plea. Instead, Ashton had just said it. Like he knew it didn't matter what he said, because no one would believe him anyway. Darius sat on the edge of his cot, running a whetstone over his dagger in slow, measured strokes. The rest of the warriors had settled into uneasy silence. The village still burned with grief, but the council had spoken. Ashton's fate was sealed. 3 days and the traitor would be dead. And yet, something gnawed at Darius. Victor had been sick. He saw it. Not just last night, but for weeks before. The way he tired faster during training, the way his hands sometimes trembled when he thought no one was looking. If Ashton hadn't mentioned it in the square, Darius might have ignored it. But now the pieces didn't fit. If Victor was already weak, why would Ashton need to kill him with a blade? And why the ceremonial dagger? It was too obvious, too convenient. Darius exhaled sharply, sheathing his knife. He had fought alongside Victor since they were boys, had trained under his father's rule, had sworn loyalty to him as alpha. But he had also watched Ashton grow from a quiet, observant Omega into someone who, despite what the others believed, wasn't weak. And he knew one thing for certain. Ashton wasn't stupid. If he had really killed Victor, he wouldn't have left the weapon in his hands like an offering. His gut twisted. There was something wrong about all of this. Darius stood, grabbed his furs, and stepped into the night. If the council wouldn't ask questions, then he would. Because if there was even a chance Ashton was innocent, then the real killer was still out there. By sunrise, the tribe had already made up their minds. Ashton was always too quiet, someone muttered near the hunter's tent. Too clever for an Omega. He wanted power, another voice whispered. Thought he could take the Alpha's place by killing Victor. By midday, it wasn't whispers anymore. It was full-blown certainty. Ashton betrayed the tribe. Valeria's voice rang out, clear and sharp, as she stood near the main gathering circle. A crowd had formed around her, drawn in by her grief, her fury, her performance. I saw him with my own eyes, standing over Victor. His dagger, his hands covered in blood. She trembled, wrapping her arms around herself like she could barely stand under the weight of her sorrow. Some warriors exchanged uneasy glances, but most nodded in grim agreement. He was meant to be Victor's mate, Valeria continued, her voice thick with emotion. And look what he did instead. She clenched her fists. He doesn't deserve a trial. He doesn't deserve 3 days. He deserves to die now. A ripple of agreement spread through the crowd. The elders had set the execution, but Valeria was feeding the tribe's rage. Stoking it, shaping it, making sure there was no room for doubt. Darius watched from the edge of the crowd, jaw tight. Something wasn't right. Valeria was devastated, yes, but she was also too prepared, too quick to place blame, too eager to twist the knife deeper. The way she kept repeating that she had seen Ashton with the dagger, as if saying it enough times would make it impossible to question. And then there was the matter of the body. Victor had been dead for hours before anyone found him. If Valeria saw Ashton standing over him, why hadn't she stopped him? Why hadn't she done anything? Darius's fingers curled around the hilt of his blade. The weight of it was familiar, grounding. The tribe had already made up their minds. But Darius was starting to think they had been led there. He turned on his heel and walked away. He needed answers, and he wasn't going to find them in a crowd that had already decided Ashton was guilty. Darius didn't return to the warriors' barracks. He didn't go to the training grounds or to the council's tent. Instead, he walked toward the one place no one else would dare go, Victor's quarters. The flap of the Alpha's private tent was still tied shut, untouched since the body had been taken away. The scent of blood and burning herbs lingered in the cold morning air, a sickly combination meant to cleanse death from the space. No one had entered since last night. No one had reason to. The case was closed. Except it wasn't. Darius glanced over his shoulder once, making sure no one was watching, then ducked inside. The inside of the tent was exactly as Victor had left it. His weapons were still lined up along the far wall, furs still neatly folded near the fire pit. A cup sat on the wooden table beside the bed, dried liquid at the bottom. Darius ran a thumb over the rim. The scent was faint, almost unnoticeable, but something about it made his instincts hum with warning. He picked up the cup and sniffed again. Bitter, metallic, not the scent of strong tea or mead. Something else. His pulse kicked up. Victor had been sick. The tremors, the weakness. Darius had seen it over the past few weeks. But the tribe had ignored it. Victor was an alpha. He wasn't supposed to be weak. But what if it hadn't been sickness at all? Darius's mind raced. Poison. It made too much sense. It would explain Victor's sudden decline. His paleness, his unsteady movements. Someone had been slowly poisoning him. And when it wasn't fast enough, when the ceremony loomed too close, they finished the job with a blade. The dagger had always been a distraction, a staged crime to hide the real one. Darius set the cup down carefully, his heartbeat hammering. He didn't have proof yet, not enough to convince the elders. But he had a lead, and he knew exactly where to start. Valeria had been near Victor more than anyone. If anyone had been close enough to poison him, it was her. Darius exhaled slowly, steadying himself. He couldn't afford to make accusations without more evidence. Not yet. The tribe was ready to tear Ashton apart. If Darius spoke now, they might come for him too. No, he needed to be smart, precise. He needed to gather proof before the execution. Because if he didn't, Ashton wouldn't be the only innocent life lost. Darius didn't leave the tent immediately. He stood there, heart pounding, the weight of realization settling heavy in his chest. Poison. Someone had been weakening Victor for weeks, and when it wasn't enough, they made sure he never reached the bonding ceremony. But why frame Ashton? Darius's eyes swept over the tent again, slower this time. Every object, every misplaced item could hold an answer. He moved toward Victor's personal chest, where the Alpha kept his ceremonial robes, trinkets, and letters. The lock had been broken open, as if someone had searched through it in a hurry. His fingers brushed over the contents. Folded tunics, a carved pendant, and beneath it, a small wooden vial, its cork missing. Darius picked it up. The inside of the vial was coated in something dark, dried along the edges. He brought it to his nose. The same bitter, metallic scent. Poison. The pieces started clicking together. Victor had been drinking from the same cup every night. If someone had been adding this little by little, no one would have noticed until it was too late. The rage that simmered under Darius's skin sharpened into something deadly. Someone had killed Victor long before the blade ever touched him. The flap of the tent rustled. Darius's hand shot to his dagger before he turned, only to find himself face to face with the healer, an older Omega named Ira. Her sharp eyes flicked to the vial in his hand, then back to his face. "You see it now, don't you?" she said quietly. Darius stiffened. "You knew." Ira sighed, stepping inside. "I suspected, but no one wanted to listen. Victor was an alpha, sickness was seen as weakness. Even when I told the council something was wrong, they dismissed me." Her voice turned bitter. "Now they want to ignore the truth because grief is easier when you have someone to blame." Darius's grip on the vial tightened. "What's in this?" "A rare toxin," Ira said. "Difficult to detect unless you know what to look for. It weakens the body over time. The signs are subtle. Shaking hands, dizziness, fatigue. By the time it kills, it looks like illness." A slow, burning anger coiled in Darius's chest. So that was the plan all along. Kill Victor quietly. But when that wasn't fast enough, they staged the murder. Darius met Ira's gaze. "Can you prove it?" Ira hesitated. "I can confirm the poison was in his body. But the elders won't care unless you can tell them who did it." Darius already knew where to start looking. He slid the vial into his belt and strode toward the exit. Valeria had been so quick to condemn Ashton. So certain. So emotional. But emotions could be faked. And Darius was done believing lies. Darius found Valeria where he expected her to be. Standing near the council's tent, surrounded by a handful of elders and grieving warriors. Her expression was perfectly crafted. Sorrowful, eyes rimmed red as if she had been crying for hours. But Darius had seen true grief before. This wasn't it. He approached without hesitation, gripping the small vial in his palm. "Valeria," he said, voice level. She turned, blinking up at him. "Darius," she whispered. "It's horrible, isn't it? Our future alpha, gone. And that traitor still breathes." Her voice hardened. "He should have been executed the moment they found him." Darius ignored the rage curling in his stomach. He forced himself to stay calm. "You said you saw Ashton with the dagger," he said. "That you walked into the tent and caught him." Valeria nodded quickly. "Yes. He was standing over Victor's body." "Then why didn't you scream sooner?" His voice was deceptively soft. "Why didn't you try to stop him?" Her brows knit together. I was in shock. She faltered for a fraction of a second. "I ran for the guards." Lies. The single word cut through the air like a blade. A few warriors nearby shifted uncomfortably. Valeria's lips parted slightly, just for a moment, before she schooled her face into something calmer. "Darius," she said carefully, "I know this is hard for you. You were Victor's closest friend. You don't want to believe that, Ashton." "I don't believe anything until I have proof," he interrupted. He reached into his belt and pulled out the vial, holding it up between them. "Like this." Valeria's entire body stiffened. Darius didn't miss it. "This was in Victor's tent," he continued. "And this morning the healer confirmed it. Victor was poisoned. For weeks. His death wasn't just murder. It was planned." The color drained from Valeria's face. But still, she didn't panic. She didn't deny it. She was calculating. "That doesn't mean Ashton didn't kill him," she said, voice sharp but controlled. "Maybe he was poisoning him and decided to finish the job." Darius took a slow step forward. If that were true, then why would he use his own dagger? Why leave it in Victor's chest for everyone to see? His voice dropped lower, dangerously quiet. "That's sloppy. That's desperate. That's something a framed man would do." Valeria clenched her jaw. The warriors around them were listening now. The elders were listening. The doubt was seeping in. Darius had her cornered. But she wasn't done yet. She straightened, tilting her chin up. "You have no proof that I was involved." she said smoothly. You're grasping at shadows, Darius. She gave him a pitying look. I know you cared about Ashton once, but defending a murderer will only. You're right, Darius cut in. I don't have proof. He stepped even closer, voice low so only she could hear. But I will. For the first time, Valeria's mask cracked. Just for a second. Just enough. Then she turned sharply on her heel and strode away. Darius let her go, because she had just confirmed exactly what he needed to know. She was guilty, and now he just had to make her break. I was running out of time. 2 days left. Then the execution. The cave was cold. The stone beneath me unforgiving, but I barely felt it anymore. My body had adjusted to the numbness. It was my mind that wouldn't stay still. It kept replaying everything. Victor's pale face, the blood on my hands, the way the tribe had turned on me so easily. I wanted to scream, to tear at the walls until my fingers bled. But what was the point? No one would listen. No one cared. Footsteps. I barely lifted my head as Darius appeared outside the cell. His expression unreadable. He had been here the night before, but I hadn't expected him to come back. He crouched by the bars. You're not going to die, he said just like that, like it was a fact, not a possibility. I laughed. A hollow, brittle sound. Bold of you to assume the council gives a damn about proof. Darius's jaw tightened. I found the poison. My breath caught. It was in Victor's tent, he continued. He was being poisoned for weeks, long before that knife ever touched him. And the person who did it framed you. I stared at him. A part of me wanted to believe it, needed to believe it. But another part, one that had already accepted my fate, held back. It won't matter, I muttered, looking away. Even if you prove it, they won't care. They just want someone to blame. Darius's fingers curled around the iron bars. Don't do this. Do what? Give up. I let out a bitter breath. I didn't know you cared. Darius went silent. When he spoke again, his voice was lower, steadier. I do. I finally looked at him, really looked at him. His expression was different now. Not just frustration or determination. Something deeper. Something I wasn't ready to face. I swallowed hard. Then leave. His brows furrowed. Seriously, Darius? I whispered. You need to stop. If they think you're defending me, they'll turn on you too. He didn't move. Please, I pressed. Don't throw away your place in the tribe for a dead man. You're not dead yet. Something in his voice made my chest ache. I wanted to push him away, to tell him to stop caring. But I couldn't, because a small, broken part of me still wanted to believe he could save me. Darius stood, stepping back. But before he left, he said, I'll be back. And for the first time since this nightmare started, I almost let myself hope. Night had fallen. The guards outside my cell were restless, shifting their weight, murmuring to each other in low voices. I had stopped counting time, but I knew tomorrow was the third sunrise, the last one I'd ever see. I lay on the cold stone, staring at the ceiling, too tired to think anymore. There was no point, no way out. Then I heard it. A sharp thud. A grunt. The sound of a body hitting the ground. I sat up fast. Footsteps. Slow. Measured. Then Darius. He appeared at the bars, eyes dark with urgency, his breath coming fast. Get up, he ordered, voice low. We're leaving. I stared at him. What? Darius pulled something from his belt. A key. I'm not letting you die for something you didn't do. Wait. My heart pounded. What about proof? The trial? You said. There won't be a trial, he cut in. Valeria's making sure of that. The elders are pushing for an early execution. At dawn. My stomach dropped. But that's unfair. Darius's expression was grim. Yeah, that's why we're getting out. Now. He slid the key into the lock and turned it. The heavy wooden door creaked open. I didn't move, because if I left, if I ran, it would mean one thing. The tribe would never believe me. Darius saw the hesitation in my face and stepped closer. This isn't giving up, he said, voice quieter now. It's surviving. I swallowed hard. And what about you? He smirked, but it didn't reach his eyes. Guess I'll be a traitor too. Something cracked in my chest. I didn't deserve this. Didn't deserve him. But I took his hand anyway. Darius pulled me up, steadying me when my legs nearly gave out. We don't have much time, he murmured. Follow my lead. Then we were moving. The first guard was already down, unconscious. Darius had been careful, no blood, just a well-placed strike to the back of the head. We stepped over him and slipped into the darkness outside. The camp was quiet. Most of the tribe had retreated to their tents, unaware that the man they had sentenced to death was walking free. For now, Darius led the way, moving like a shadow, his grip firm on my wrist. Every step we took away from the prison felt heavier. I should have felt relief. I didn't, because I wasn't supposed to be running. I was supposed to be proving my innocence. And maybe Darius knew, because as we reached the edge of the village, just before the tree line, he stopped. We're not leaving, he said suddenly. I froze. What? He turned to face me, eyes sharp, determined. We're not running, he repeated. We're going back. A cold shock ran through me. You just risked your life to get me out. And now you deserve to clear your name, he interrupted. Not live in exile, not spend your life as a fugitive. You want justice? We take it. Together. I stared at him. And then, against all logic, against everything in me that said this was suicide, I nodded. We weren't escaping. We were going to finish this. The village was still asleep when we walked back into the square. Darius moved first, shoulders squared, step steady. I followed, my pulse hammering in my throat. Every instinct screamed at me to run, to hide, to take my last chance at survival and disappear into the forest. But I didn't. I wouldn't. We weren't here to escape. We were here to end this. The first shouts rang out when the guards saw us. More voices followed, confused, furious, afraid. The prisoner has escaped. Stop them. Warriors rushed toward us, hands on their weapons, but Darius didn't slow. Stand down, he barked. His voice carried through the square, sharp and commanding. The warriors hesitated, their training forcing them to obey, if only for a moment. Then the elders emerged from their tents, their expressions dark with anger. Ryan, the eldest among them, stepped forward. Darius, he said coldly, you would betray your own people for a murderer? Darius didn't flinch. I would betray no one, he said. But I refuse to let this tribe kill an innocent man. The murmurs spread, doubt creeping in. Doubt. It wasn't much, but it was enough to make the elders hesitate. Valeria stepped out from the crowd then, her face a perfect mask of outrage. This is treason, she hissed. You broke into the prison, attacked our guards, and now you dare to demand a fair trial? Darius cut her off. Yes, that's exactly what I dare. Valeria's mouth snapped shut. The elders looked between us, their carefully built certainty beginning to crack. This wasn't how things were supposed to go. I wasn't supposed to walk back willingly. I wasn't supposed to fight. Darius took another step forward, locking eyes with Ryan. You claim we are a just tribe, he said, voice steady. Prove it. Hold a trial. Let the truth decide Ashton's fate, not fear and blind grief. The silence stretched. I could see the war behind the elders' eyes. They wanted me dead, but they also wanted to be right. If they denied a trial, it would mean admitting that they had condemned me without cause. Finally, Ryan exhaled slowly. The trial will be held at sunset, he declared. Until then, Ashton will be kept under guard. It wasn't freedom, but it was time. And right now, time was everything. The guards hesitated before grabbing my arms, their grips tighter than before. As they dragged me back toward the prison, my eyes met Darius's. He gave a single, slow nod. We weren't finished yet. By sunset, the entire tribe had gathered. The council fire burned high in the center of the village, casting long shadows over the elders' stone seats. Warriors lined the edges of the circle, tense and watchful. The rest of the tribe stood beyond them, whispering among themselves, their anger no longer as sharp, now edged with uncertainty. I knelt in the dirt, wrists still bound. Darius stood beside me, unshackled, but just as much on trial as I was. The council will hear the case of Ashton, Omega of the Northern Wolf Tribe, Elder Ryan announced, voice steady but hard. Accused of the murder of our alpha heir, Victor. A murmur rippled through the crowd. I didn't look at them. My gaze locked on Valeria, standing just behind the elders, her arms folded. She looked calm, confident, but there was something else too, something flickering behind her eyes. Darius took a single step forward. Before you pass judgment, he said, his voice carrying over the fire, you need to hear the truth. Ryan's expression didn't change. We already know the truth. No, Darius said. You know what Valeria told you. And she lied. The reaction was immediate. People shifted, exchanged uncertain glances. Valeria scoffed. How dare you? Darius ignored her. He pulled something from his belt and held it up. The small wooden vial. Victor was poisoned, he said, turning to the crowd. For weeks. He was sick long before he was stabbed. More murmurs. Some warriors frowned, remembering how Victor had seemed weaker in recent moons. Elder Ryan's gaze narrowed. What proof do you have? Darius handed the vial to Ira, the healer. This was found in Victor's quarters. A rare toxin coated the inside. Ira can confirm it was the same substance in his blood. Ira stepped forward, holding the vial carefully. It's true, she said. Victor didn't just fall ill. Someone was poisoning him. The crowd stirred. Darius turned sharply to Valeria. You said you saw Ashton standing over Victor, but you also spent more time around him than anyone. You were in his tent constantly, tending to him, bringing him drinks. Tell me, Valeria, how did he get poisoned? Valeria's eyes flashed. Are you accusing me? I'm asking a question, Darius said. One you refused to answer. For the first time, Valeria hesitated. And that was when the first witness stepped forward. I saw her, a voice called out. All heads turned as an older warrior, Garen, stepped into the firelight. I saw Valeria bringing Victor tea before the last hunt. He didn't drink it at first, but she insisted. Another voice, one of the younger Omegas. She argued with him too, they said hesitantly. Before the ceremony, I heard them outside his tent. She was angry. Valeria's nails dug into her arms. They're lying. But the unease in the crowd was growing. More whispers, more shifting feet. Darius stepped forward, voice firm. You all demanded justice for Victor. That's why Ashton was sentenced so quickly. But if this trial is truly about justice, then why are you afraid of the truth? The weight of his words settled over the square. The elders looked between each other. And Valeria, for the first time, looked like a cornered animal. I almost smiled. Valeria was slipping. The calm, grieving act she had worn so well was starting to crack. The murmurs around the fire weren't filled with rage toward me anymore. They were uncertain, confused, doubting her. She could feel it too. I saw it in the way her fingers clenched at her sides, the way her breathing had quickened just slightly. But she wasn't done yet. You're all being fooled, she spat, her voice sharp. This is exactly what Ashton wanted. He's manipulating you, just like he manipulated Victor. A few people still nodded, but others hesitated. The tide was turning, and she knew it. Darius's voice was steady. Victor didn't want Ashton dead. He turned toward the tribe. But someone did, and they needed him out of the way before the ceremony. Before the bond was official. Before he let the implications settle. Before Victor chose me, over her. Valeria's breath hitched, and then she broke. It was supposed to be me, she snarled. The words echoed, too loud, too raw, before she could stop them. Too late. A sharp silence followed. She realized her mistake immediately, lips parting slightly, but there was no way to take it back. Not when the entire tribe had just heard her say it. The whispers came fast. Supposed to be her? She wanted Victor? Then I watched the realization slam into them all at once. She wanted Victor, but he had chosen me instead. Her hands curled into fists. He stole everything from me, she hissed, her voice rising. Victor should have been mine. I stood by his side for years. I was his own blood, and he threw me aside for an Omega who didn't even love him. The last words echoed through the square, her voice shaking with rage. I froze. Everything around me blurred for a second, my own heartbeat crashing in my ears. She didn't just expose herself. She had exposed everything. She knew. She had known all along that my bond with Victor hadn't been love, that we had respected each other, but it was a union of duty, not devotion. But Darius, standing in front of me, fighting for me, was something else entirely. Valeria's chest heaved, her breathing ragged, but no one was standing beside her anymore. The elders' faces had darkened. The warriors were stiff. The tribe, so sure of my guilt before, now looked at her with wide, disbelieving eyes. She had condemned herself. I didn't need to say a word. The silence after Valeria's outburst was different, heavier. Before, the tribe had been loud in their anger, furious in their grief. But now they were afraid. Afraid because they had been wrong. Valeria stood in the center of the gathering circle, her breathing ragged, her face pale. She looked to the crowd for support, for someone, anyone to stand by her. But no one did. Even the warriors who had been calling for my death just hours ago wouldn't meet her eyes. Elder Ryan's voice was cold when he finally spoke. You deceived the council. You deceived the tribe. You took our alpha from us. And when that wasn't enough, you framed an innocent man. Valeria shook her head wildly. No, I was just trying to protect us. Ashton. He wasn't meant to. Enough. Ryan's voice cut through the night like a blade. You are no longer of this tribe, he declared. You will be stripped of your name, your status, and your place among us. Valeria staggered. No, wait. You will be exiled before the next sunrise, Ryan continued. And no one will speak your name again. She screamed. The sound was raw, desperate, but the tribe did nothing. No one defended her. No one begged for mercy. She had stolen their alpha. She had made them murderers in their grief. The warriors grabbed her by the arms. She fought, clawed at them, twisted, pleaded, but it didn't matter. She was already gone. I didn't move, didn't speak, because I had nothing to say to her. As they dragged her away, my gaze swept over the tribe. I met faces that couldn't hold my eyes. I saw warriors who had thrown me to the ground in anger now looking at me like I was something else entirely. Like I was someone they had almost destroyed. I exhaled slowly. Darius stepped beside me, his warmth solid and steady. It's over, he murmured. I wasn't sure if that was true, but at least now I was alive. By morning, Valeria was gone. No one spoke of her. No one dared. The law was clear. Once exiled, a traitor's name was erased from the tribe's history. And yet, even in silence, I could feel the weight of it pressing down on everyone. The shame, the guilt, mine too. The elders gathered at sunrise, standing before me like they had 3 days ago. Only this time I wasn't on my knees. You are free, Elder Ryan said. The words should have brought relief. Instead, they felt hollow. He hesitated, his aged face unreadable. You may stay if you wish. You were meant to be our alpha's mate. The tribe will honor that place, should you choose to reclaim it. It was an offer of atonement, their way of making things right. But I didn't answer. Not yet. I walked away from them, toward the riverbank where the village met the trees. The same spot where Victor and I used to sit in silence, where I once thought my future had been set in stone. Footsteps followed. Darius, you're leaving. It wasn't a question. I exhaled. I don't know. The betrayal still burned, deeper than any wound. These people, my people, had been ready to kill me. They hadn't questioned it, hadn't hesitated. If not for Darius, I'd be a forgotten name in the dirt. But leaving meant giving them up. The land I had grown up on, the people I had once trusted, the home that had almost destroyed me. Darius moved beside me, arms crossed. Wherever you go, he said. I go. My chest tightened. Don't say that. I mean it. He turned fully to me now, voice steady, certain. This was never about the tribe for me. It was about you. I swallowed hard. I had spent my life preparing to stand beside an alpha out of duty. But Darius had never been a duty. He had been a choice. And now so was this. I looked back at the village, at the people watching me with uneasy hope. I could leave. I could disappear into the wilds and start over. But no matter how far I ran, this place would always be a part of me. I turned back to Darius. We stay, I said, but on my terms. A slow smile tugged at his lips. Good. The tribe would learn. Things would change. And this time it would be because I chose it. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to subscribe so you won't miss our next video. See you again.